Flexibility. How do we loosen things up? How do we make it limber and get snap and vitality into our performances at the same time as keeping our figure stable and solid? We're going to get into some sophisticated stuff here. How to go from A to B in the most interesting ways. And we'll come to one of the great secrets of animation, which is, and this is a mouthful, successive breaking of joints to give flexibility. Point of our scene is this. The guy is, he's happy and he's sad. He sees something that makes him sad. So that's a nice key, and it's a key to, obviously they're both keys, because that's telling the story, right? If it's in a long scene or a short scene, that's got to be an important, if you had a storyboard, you'd have to have those two drawings, or a comic strip, you'd have to see those two drawings. So, the answer is, how do you get nicely from this to this? That became the problem, How do you loosen it up? How do you limber it up? Limber it up. If you just do this, which is what most people would do, the in-between thing is there, isn't it? I haven't done it right. Well, it's this, isn't it? But that's pretty dull. Now, so this drawing becomes very important. This is, again, the passing position, if you want to call it that. But I call it the breakdown drawing. The breakdown drawing, which is a passing position. Where do we go in the middle to loosen it up? Where do we go in the middle to make it interesting? And I think it's the secret of animation. The secret of animation. Because any storyboard artist, comic strip artist, illustrator, anybody who's illustrating a story can do those two drawings nicely. But when it comes to animate the thing nicely, where are they going to go? Now, obviously, one of the first things you might, we're going to do a whole series of these things here, if I can be inventive. The first thing I would do is make him blink. If we're changing expression, you're going to tend to blink, isn't it? Michael Caine, in his acting thing, he said, if you're an actor in close-up, he says, watch what happens if you blink all the time. It's weak. And he says, what might happen if you just look at the camera? It's strong. It's kind of aggressive. But that would be a first thing to do, I would think. Right? And what would also be interesting, if we're going to have an in-between here, put it there. Immediately, you've gone somewhere else. You haven't gone from A to B. Go from A to X to B. What B? So that's the drawing that gives it life. These are the drawings that tells the story. This is the animator. The animator lives in here, I say. That's what, and then of course, when you live in here and get good at this breakdown, doing an interesting breakdown, you get good at going from an interesting breakdown from here to here. and an interesting breakdown from there to there, and an interesting breakdown from that one to that one, and so on. And then you know when to lay off and just put in a straight in between. Extra move in something, or an interesting way of going from one thing to the other. Anyway, so let's just put another one in here. Let's do that. We're still just in between. We drop the mouth lower, which might distend the face lower. Why don't we take the eyes and open them bigger? We could do that. It's a bit graphic, but... Or leave them off. I used to leave eyes off every now and then. It'd give you a little fast blink. Or, let's just see what you can do with this. And this is a thing Ken Harris used to do a lot. He would take the same drawing and he would hold it. Maybe he'd lower the mouth slightly. But he'd take the same thing and do that. Or he'd take that one and put it there. So that you get a faster change to here before you go to here. So you go somewhere else in the middle. Okay? Let's go to there. That may be a bit violent. What about here? What about here? Over here, some teeth. You see what's happening? If the mouth went right up there, you'd get a compression on the face and the muscles here. You can see that one working. So you get a bigger change. Now somebody's going to say, is that an extreme? Or is that a key? Or is that a breakdown? Just say, it doesn't matter. It's the passing, it's the in-between drawing. It's the transitional drawing. It's the, I just call it the breakdown. Whether it turns out to be an extreme, it's never a key. It's never a key, never a key. It's never the storytelling drawing. Let's do some more. We might go up. It's a little obscure. But you can get an awful lot of mileage in the subtle thing of just doing that. Putting the in-between, let's say this is a straight. Putting it there, but not here. So that it goes up and then down and falls down. Okay? And if that happened, you might get quite a compression in the face, which would already give you a change of shape before it went down again. Can't think of any more. Ken felt he wasn't a terrific draftsman, right? Although, I don't know if I've said this before, we're making the fox go from here to here. He felt insecure about his drawing because he only really started at age 37 or 36. And he went to a studio where they trained animators. You had to pay $5 a week to learn. So he was there a week, and he had such a flair for it. The guy said at the end of the week, he said, well, look, Ken, you're so good at this. You can come here and work next week and work for nothing. That was his promotion. And I said, well, that's about what I'm paying you, Ken. Anyway, Ken felt insecure about the drawing, although not insecure about the animation. And what he would do, if say this was a nice drawing of the fox, and he's going to go down to here, Ken would take this drawing and he'd put it in the middle like that. Just like using this drawing, the same drawing there. And I said, gee, why are you doing that? And he said, well, it's a nice drawing. I want to keep the look of it. And that gave his work a great stability, which a fancy artist wouldn't think to do. So let's do it again this way. He would take this drawing and he'd put that in the middle. Well, what he's doing is a very interesting breakdown here. We'll favor the first drawing. And now we'll favor the last drawing. The head is going to go forward. You would put the head drawing. You just do that with it. Going up. Let's close it. No, we won't even close the eye. See what I mean? You then get somehow, I don't know how to shade it in, you get more bang for the buck, more change. Let's do it the other way. Going from there, same thing. You tilt it forward. The thing is, instead of doing a sort of boring movement from here to here, A to B, we go B. See what I mean? And it can be very subtle. Just, wait a minute. That's just with a little one, or going up. Okay? Or very broad. But it gives you more life in the middle. So let's put the breakdown here. Again, it gives us more action within the move. Or put it here. Again, it gives us more action within the action. If we put the breakdown in the middle, it works, but it's kind of boring. Now let's put the turban in the middle, but tilt the head. And it's interesting. We progress this Hollywood mouse head and body forward, then we continue it forward, but tilt it down, and then pull back, tilting down a little bit more, and we get a really nice mouse. The breakdown is the key. The where we live, what we do with that middle drawing gives the character to the walk. If it's that, or just a dull thing, or it's that, or it's this, or it's that, or it's anything that seems appropriate, and she'll work. But that's how to think about it. In the 1920s, animators achieved a sense of flexibility by using what they called rubber hose animation, which was leaving out the bones and joints so that they could achieve fluid motion. Things worked in circles and figure eights. It was unreal and funny, and audiences loved it. Entertaining though rubber hose animation was, it limited the development of believability. In the 1930s, Disney pushed its animators to look for other ways of achieving flexibility while still using bones, joints, and muscles. We can achieve the same flexibility as rubber hose animation using straight lines. And one way to do this is by breaking the joints. We're now coming to the successive breaking of joints, which is another way to limber everything up, to loosen everything up. We have 3 joints in an arm, the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder, not to mention 14 finger joints. Now if we do this, we've broken the elbow joint. Now let's break the wrist. Now let's break the elbow joint in the opposite direction. Next, break the wrist in the opposite direction. Now, straighten the arm and then relax the hand. We break the joints one at a time. If all the joints do not break at the same time, we can achieve all the flexibility we'll ever desire in animation. And successively, I mean continuously loosening things up. So we'll call that successive breaking of joints to give, I'll put it in brackets, to give flexibility. So we're just going to go into the successive thing. If we have a guy here, and he's got his arm here, and he's going to put his hand up here, but you haven't left much room. Can I take? Okay? Obviously, we're now going to do the breakdown or middle position or passing position. And maybe there's a bit of drag there. If we put it there, it's going to be awfully dead, isn't it? It's awfully bad. If we've looked at Hollywood animation, we think, oh, animation is rubber. You have to draw things with squash and stretch, squash and stretch. We have to have squash and stretch. Bloop. We do that. See, I've got drag, and I've got squash and stretch. I'm going to stretch it. Or they'll say, let's do a fat in between. Let's put blurs in here. That's great. Let's have a, this isn't going to be very good. So he's got a long way to go to get up there. And he's going to come from same place, down here. Okay. Let's put the middle drawing in, I guess in color. We're going to do this. Now, we don't have to break the elbow. We don't have to physically break the elbow with a hammer, and of course we'll drag the hand. Okay, there's your breakdown. Middle position. Now we put the other ones in. Let's just put one in between here. There would be more in betweens, but why don't we do this? Might drag that a little. Okay, so we've got this. We're then going to here, and we're going to here. Okay, the middle one here, the next one, I would take the elbow up to there. It's already arrived, and we break the joint, even though we don't break the arm. I'm trying to draw these things kind of in straight lines. Okay? And then when we get to the top, put this in a different color. The next I would have the thing has already arrived there, but the hand is just coming up. So you see what's happening, isn't it? You're getting more change. So we break the elbow joint. And break it again. Elbow is in the middle, but look where the hand is. Now we'll have the elbow arrive first. Much better. And we make the wrist arrive before the hand. And look where the wrist is down here. Now we've really got something. We're getting curves using straight lines. Let's do it going down where I'd put it here. And we drag the hand. We have smashed the joint there, haven't we? Or does it work? No, yeah, it's all right. Here's the same principle coming down, but break the elbow this way. Now let's put the wrist here, and we'll have the arm and wrist arrive before the hand. Actually, that's kind of the whole thing. We do some more examples of it, but that's an awfully clear schematic thing of how to think about it. So in other words, you hunt for the thing that you can that will make it most interesting to loosen it up. And you're not afraid to smash the joint when it's necessary. Somebody's going to thump the desk. I'm going to go up like this. I do it here. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to smash the desk. So as I'm in a normal position here, I'm going to go up. I'll draw this out, up this way. As this hand is coming up, as the hand is going up, the elbow's coming down, and the hand is still going up, and it's getting ready, and then, bam, with leaving out drawings in the middle. Here's how I would do it. The elbow leads going up, and the elbow leads coming down, while the hand continues going up. The elbow is still leading. Bam! I would even do this to get, instead of just going bam, I would go bum bum. So a frame before that one, I'd hit with the elbow. I'd try that anyway. It might be it'll make it a little weaker, a hit, slightly weaker, but it'll give you a double hit. Dunk-a-dunk. It's like the bouncing ball, getting the contact, one bit and then another. It's a frame later, so you're not going to see it. Ba-dump. You're just going to feel it. Here's where the elbow contacts first. Kabam! 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 I got two more examples of breaking of joints, and then successive breaking of joints, and I think we got it. I'm going to draw my way right across here. So this is if a guy was pounding a table, or what could be a judge with a gavel, you'd get even more stuff happening, but this guy's just going to go like this, right? What's happening is we go up, again, it's the same thing as hitting the table, and it's coming down, and then pop, and and then up again. So you just start here. Here he is. Okay. Got his hand ready to bash it. Here it is in slow motion. And at speed. Having hit displaces, as he's going up like this, that hand's pulling away in order to give you more action, right? That's all that's happening. But you get all this, you can see it if you scan it, you get all this, I mean, how dull it would be, you know, so you get, that's how to use it. And now you could put, if it was a loose fellow, you know, or a dancer or something, or a woman, you'd get a lot more probably, you know. You can push this thing. If you have a drummer, give him an elbow, and that's his hand. I'll number the drumstick as 1. Okay. Now do each one of these in a different color. Oh, maybe, actually, no, maybe it'd be clearer. I'll do it all in black. Going up, and another color coming down. He's going to hit the drum in a, you know how they do, boom, zzz, boom, zzz. It's going to be the same thing, boom, basically, boom. And they often do a little twiddle up at the top, you know, boom, boom. You might even not come down the way I'm going to come down. You might come down straight. The elbow leads throughout. Break the joint. Break the joints. Again, we're making curves with straight lines. The result is a curvaceous unfolding movement made with a ruler. And it's more or less working in a figure 8. Figure 8, which are always beautiful to watch. Ward Kimball, in a lot of his animation, makes tremendous use of figure 8s. Consciously, they use figure, you know. Is that clear? I think you got it. That's it. That's the basic principle. Bam, bam, bam. And of course it can be bam, 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 you know, whatever they do. The problem with doing these little formulas and things is that we haven't got to talk about the difference between things and people, isn't it yet? And these are cliche formulas or ways of thinking or ways of structuring your mind to go at the problem, but everybody's different. Everybody's going to beat the drum in a different way. And everything is different. So one of the great things about being able to draw well is you can pick out the difference between things. Once we get this work method working and the system into your blood, then you start doing what's the difference between light and heavy, fat, thin, large, small, round, flat, you know. Here's a subtle use of breaking joints. The same principle applies. You can apply this endlessly. It's like a wave, and it's also working in a figure eight. Here's a hand hitting a table. Once again, the elbow leads, going up, and the elbow leads coming down. We've got 3 hits: elbow, arm, fingers. Take a simple clapping action with a mechanical in-between. But it's a good idea to displace the palm on the hit. It's just about acceptable. But now, let's break the joints, delaying the hand and leading with the wrist. Works much better. This will work with tiny actions, using straight in-betweens. This is okay, but boring. But even in a little thing like this, we can get flexibility. Say we're hammering a nail. This spacing gives power to the hit. But to add some more snap to the wrist, we'll have the wrist arrive, but delay the hand. Let's bang hands together. This is okay. How about this for putting it together and pulling it apart? Wrists hit first, then the knuckles, then the wrists lead, pulling it apart. And the conclusion is that it is much more limber. When I was learning about breaking joints, I did an exercise to try out the principles. It came out pretty well, and it shows the work method that we use to get a fluid result. Here's my original sketch. The idea is to do a front view of a female swaying side to side, have her hips work in a figure eight, and have her head counter her body. Then have her hands work independently and break the joints. So what do we do first? Answer: the key. Drawing number 1, the one that tells the story. What do we do next? Obviously, the opposite extreme. Say she takes half a second to sway over, 12 frames. So let's call this drawing number 13. Now, we just put an interesting passing position as she goes over. And we'll have her hips favor number 13. Now we'll go back the other way, but the passing position will have the hips favoring number 1, and then throw the leg off slightly. Now we'll have the basis for a cycle. But let's be clever. Put in another extreme next to number 1, pushing her further over. Call it number 3. And now, do the same thing next to number 13, pushing her further over that side. And call it number 15. Now we can break it down further, putting in the hand circling and other curvy bits. The charts are simple. Going over, coming back. Now we've got it functioning on 2s. Then we add in 1s, single in-betweens, to smooth things out further. And we're done. So, we've seen how the breakdown or passing position can give extra life to the action. And we've shown how successive breaking joints gives flexibility. Next, we'll be looking at overlapping action, which is often misunderstood. And we'll see how to create the illusion of weight.